Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic: Women of Reddit, what do you think about the fall of Constantinople in 1453 by the Ottoman forces led by Mehmed II? Well, I'm a Greek woman and I'm doing my master's in history, and have done a paper on the music about the fall of Constantinople. In summary, the fall of Constantinople was kind of inevitable. The empire was in its last legs, due in large part to the fall during the Fourth Crusade in 1204. It had a lot of internal and external problems. For example, Constantinople's Palaiologos was never officially coronated, due to religious infighting. The Ottoman Empire had already conquered all of the farmland around, and was right to go for the kill at the time that it did. It conquered a great strategic and cultural landmark. The Hagia Sophia had already become a mosque in May 29, 1453, 2:30 in the afternoon. It's a pity for my heritage, but at that time I think it was inevitable. Edit, WTF guys, thanks. Oh. Edit number 2, actually no, guys, the paper wasn't on There Might Be Giants. It was on Greek folk laments on the event of the fall, and how accurate were their lyrics in relation to the actual event. They were fairly accurate, also deeply sad and lamenting the loss of a symbol, mostly, not the city itself. Finally, a serious answer to the question. I came for the jokes, and I left as a better educated person. It's a win-win. It was very sexy of him to move the ships overland. As an Istanbulite, I love this mess of a city. As a 23-year-old, I don't like that he did it at the tender age of 21. Do you know the kind of pressure our elders put on us because so-and-so's son conquered Istanbul at 21 and we're sitting at home jobless? Very uncool. Not even a joke, they actually say that lol. Can you throw it back at them? Like, IKR, if only I had his kind of elders, can you imagine how great my generation could be? I don't like that he did it at the tender age of 21. Do you know the kind of pressure our elders put on us because so-and-so's son conquered Istanbul at 21 and we're sitting at home jobless? If our elders left me a massive state with a grand army and big-ass cannons, I would have conquered some place too. Instead, they are leaving us a fucked up economy. You shouldn't have bought all of those avocado kebabs. Comes you oku istabulu fevadiyor sen hala telefodas. That's easy for you to say. I don't know, if I were him I probably just wouldn't have fell. Hopefully his fall was cushioned by one of the Ottomans. Edit, well. I did not expect a pun I made during an unnecessary work call to take off like this. Thanks to everyone for the awards. I haven't gotten this many hugs since the pre-COVID days. Edit 2, okay, I was just trying to be polite, but I can see how my first edit came off as cringeworthy. Gravity. Thou art a heartless bitch. Constantinople, 1453. Edit, thank you for my first awards, kind strangers. When a guy finally asks me this in a bar after I buy him a drink, and he really listens to the answer, is the day all of my underwear will vanish. Immediately. Edit, there's nothing wrong with buying a man a drink. Y'all kings deserve a whiskey and coke and a compliment just as much as I do. Well, I have a new pickup line with a much higher chance of success than all of my others, 1 in about 4 billion. I like those chances. She has to buy you a drink first. Back to zero buddy, sorry. Not a woman, but my mom and sister are. I think 1453 was an inside job, everyone knows Ottoman cannons can't melt Theodosia walls. If you put your mind to it, you can melt anything. Oh stop, I'm not that hot. Well, Istanbul was Constantinople, but now, it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. So, if you've a date in Constantinople, she'll be waiting in Istanbul. Every girl in Constantinople knows it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. I like when the leaves change colors in the fall. I don't know if they had leaves, so no opinion. Some leaves are red. Some leaves are orange. Some are even yellow. This is so cool. r/interesting as fuck. Most of the ladies I know agree it hadn't been as cool since they changed the name from Byzantium, so good riddance. Mikhailgrad and Slavgrad were cooler though. So was Nova Roma. Byzantium, Nova Roma, Constantinople, Constantinople, Istanbul, Istanbul. Nova Roma sounds very futuristic. It was ahead of its time. It gave us this gem, so I can't be too mad about it. I thought you were going to link to this https://u2.be/fci5rnr5tgm. Welp, pretty sure I'm cursed now. What the fuck is this? I love it. I need an adult. That's nobody's business but the Turks. So take me back to Constantinople. No, you can't go back. It was all right. K. These are the right questions to ask women. Unlike the most other questions in this sub. Women of Reddit it, what's the sexiest sex you ever sexed? Why are there so many posts with guys trying to find women based on knowledge of history? Where are my threads asking women what they think of Le Chatelier's principle or Lagrange's? Edit, this is meant as a joke because I see this type of post a lot and I'm a STEM major rather than humanities. I definitely don't intend to tokenize/fetishize female scientists. All scientists rock. Women of Reddit, how do you feel about the fetishizatio of realism in art among the general populace despite conceptually driven works still dominating the contemporary capital art world? I would argue that fetishizatio of realism in the general populace doesn't exist to a measurable extent, and most popular artists who are producing realist works, have socio-political and conceptual messaging behind them. Also, for this question and the general thread, women would be here if you just asked the question. No need to single us out, makes us question what the agenda of the asker is. I'm not a woman, but I just texted a girl I know asking her opinion and she told me to never text her again, so I think she's upset about it. It's a sensitive subject. There's is awesome docudrama about him taking over the city on Netflix. That man was a strategic genius. Since many people are asking for the title of the show, it's Rise of Empires, Ottoman. There are dozens of Turkish documentaries and films that have much better production and script about the same subject. However, they all convey some kind of national pride in them. This show portrays both sides of the conflict in a very objective manner, and as for someone who thinks history should be taken into account from every possible perspective, this show is great for that. This and Kingdom of Heaven. Probably one of the best siege movies /series. Kingdom of Heaven is a garbage film with a great siege. Kingdom of Heaven was just the Christian perspective of the Crusades when they lost to Saladin the Great. I'm a man, but the fall of Constantinople closed off Europe's trade routes with Asia, specifically China and India. The Ottomans charged enormous taxes on goods passing through their territory, if they even let goods through at all. This led to Europeans looking for new trade routes. The Portuguese were already a pretty navally focused kingdom and were geographically situated the best to begin naval exploration. So they started trading down the west coast of Africa, eventually rounding the Cape of Good Hope into the Indian Sea. These expeditions allowed the Portuguese to develop their naval technology to the point where they could start venturing out into the Atlantic, beyond the sight of land, and still reliably navigate. This led to the discovery of the Azores, which sparked a lot of interest in Europe. It was the first time in living memory new lands had been discovered. Portugal's new trade wealth sparked competition with their newly united rival and Iberian Peninsula neighbors, the Spanish kingdoms. The Spanish began funding their own trade voyages to try to compete with Portugal, including, famously, a Genoese explorer named Christopher Columbus. More than half a millennia later, people descended from Europeans who colonized the lands Columbus discovered for Europe elected an orange fascist president. So I personally blame Mehmed II for Trump's election. So you think you can conquer the Byzantine Empire? Yep, said the Ottoman Turks. Nice job, Ottoman Turks. Don't forget to ban Europe from the Indian spice trade. What? That's bullshit, said Portugal, spiceless. Well, I guess we'll have to find another way to India. History of the entire world, I guess. While I appreciate the joke, you're repeating a common historical misconception. For one thing, most of the trade between the East and West happened through Egypt. The trade network in the Indian Ocean was probably the most valuable in the world at this time, and the shortest link between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean was through Egypt, which the Ottomans wouldn't conquer until 1517, 25 years after Columbus discovered the Americas. Both before and after the conquest of Egypt, the Ottomans didn't tax goods unusually heavily. Obviously there were some taxes, but trade with European states was the economic lifeblood of the Ottoman Empire, so they had an interest in not stifling it. Really, if the Ottomans did tax trade as heavily as you're saying, then you would expect most European mercantile states to start looking into direct routes to the Indian Ocean. Instead, at this point in time, it was only Portugal and Spain that were interested. For the major mercantile states of the Mediterranean like Venice and Florence, the Ottomans were no different from any of the states that came before them, and business kept on as usual. The reason Portugal and Spain started expanding along the African coast is that it was an easy way to expand into new markets and acquire new resources. There were also ideological reasons. Conquering Muslim-held cities in Africa was seen as an extension of the Reconquista, and people wanted to find the legendary kingdom of Priester John. Once Portugal and Spain realized they might be able to access the Indian Ocean by sailing around Africa, that became the goal because, like I said, the Indian Ocean trade network was super valuable. The fact that this was about getting access to new markets and not about acquiring specific goods can be seen by looking at the operation of the early Portuguese Empire. In the early days, the Portuguese didn't make most of their money by transporting spices and other goods back to Europe, as later empires would. That happened, but most of the money came from extorting the trade that already existed in the Indian Ocean, through a practice called cartazes. I came here to say this and I am a woman. So really imagine I said it first and was ignored in favor of this guy, and we'll have a fully accurate representation of my process of getting a history degree.